of the presentation by removing in situ sensors. We just deal with remote sensing and crop modeling. And this presentation is based on contributions of different persons. Martin Guérif, who is colleagues of mine, and several postdocs, and Paco, for instance, is in the room. He was the first postdoc of this project, which was implemented within the frame of Fatima project. And maybe it's the reason why I am here today. Okay, I think the overarching goal of this study is really to adjust nitrogen fertilization according to yield potential and current crop development. I think we have a lot of presentation this morning, and we are typically in the same line, but maybe with a different way to consider things. Because if you want to take decision at a given time, you don't have an idea of the development of the leaf area index in the future. And this morning we saw a nice relationship between the leaf area index and integrated over time, leading to a good relationship with yield. This means that there is relevant information, but this doesn't mean that at the beginning of the cycle you are able to estimate what would be the development in the future. And this is the reason why we try to combine the remote sensing to understand the functioning of the field, but also to use crop model to be able to project what's happened in the future, knowing some characteristics of the system and knowing on the status of your crop. And this presentation will allow two or three main questions. We will work in the rain-fed area, and the water storage capacity is an important property that determines the potential of the yield. And there is a question: how can we estimate it? It's not always obvious. There is soil map, but they are generally rather crude or at a scale which is not the one you need to take decision at the field level. The second question is really we want to project in the future and use the crop models to delineate the different sources of variability. And this arises a huge challenge is how to deal with the number of parameters underlying crop model. And I will show you that there is maybe 300 parameters. Obviously, you cannot determine them in every places. And also there is now the Sentinel revolution with very frequent images, and now we are able to go into the cycle of the plant. It's very interesting. And the idea is how can we use this information to help to handle the crop model. Okay, this study was implemented in France, in the south of France, in Provence, which is an area where you have a dry summer, heavy precipitation. It's not very different from that you have here. Maybe there is more rain, 700 millimeters per year, and, but still a deficit. If you see the ET0 accumulation, it is 1,200. But we have good resources because we are at the Piedmont of the Alps, and there is large rivers offering the possibility of irrigation. But here we will just focus on rain-fed crop, and especially on durum wheat. And also we will work on the soil, which is an alluvial plain with alluvial soil with a lot of heterogeneity due to the constitution of the soil, due to the river's history, which is quite disturbed. The first part of this talk will be first what we can learn from the remote sensing data. I think it's important to see the potential of this data and concerning the cycle of the wheat, what we can learn something. There was some information this morning, maybe I will add other view of this, but more or less we will see that we can understand a lot of things, but there are many factors that have to deal with. First, if you go in the field, and at a good time, here you have a picture. I'm sorry for the mosaic because it was taken from a crane, and now we have drones. It could be better, but these images show clearly that at certain period you have clear patterns revealed by the vegetation, and especially at the senescent time. And here, for instance, you have early senescence, which corresponds to soils that are very shallower soils. Here you have maybe 2 meters of nice silty clay loam, but here the soil depth is only 70 centimeters. And you can see that even using this picture, you have a soil map in front of you that invite us to use these information to go a bit further in a quantitative way. And we can see that the year after, this is a sunflower, and you can see again the same feature that appeared. That is a good evidence that there are some permanent properties that are observable using remote sensing. But we can also see here that the variability could be not only due to the soil, but there are other factors. For instance, here you have in that area problem of soil structure that prevent to have a nice installation of the crop. Now let's go to in more detail in the dynamic of the system. Here we have a field with several maps here on that side, on the right side. This is at the crop installation in February, just a bit further, and you can see that there is a spatial patterns which is like this. But if we are looking to the leaf area, we have another spatial patterns. And if we are looking to the yield, we have another one. This means that just analyzing the leaf area index dynamics is not enough, because there is many factors that affect the system, and we will see during these presentations that it's too simple schemes may lead to misunderstanding. And if we are looking here, the curves, these curves corresponds to, we sort the pixels with the yield map, and we make class of yield and the corresponding leaf area index for the different class. Here you have from 42 quintile to 88 quintile, and you can see that there is a real critical period which is at the end of the cycle when the maturity is established, and you can see that the highest yield were not those obtained with the highest leaf area index. It is not obtained with the highest, the best installation, but it occurs when, at the end, the plant finds resources to finish its cycle. And this is a very important feature, and all the reasoning will be based on that. But if you go in another field, the story is a bit different. You can still see here that the decrease of the leaf area index during the maturity phase is still critical. You rank exactly the yield with the position of the curves. But here you can see that there is a kind of consistency between the different curves. That means that where you have a good settlement, you have a good leaf area index and good yield. And this is due to the fact that in 2017 we have a real problem of installation due to excess of water. And you can see that here you have the patterns of the installation of the crop that is very consistent with the yield map which is shown here. And this means that in that case, one of the major factors will be the installation of the crop. And if we are looking at this field in another years, we have 2 years of wheat with this field. You can see that in 2016, where the limiting factor is mainly due to the drought and the soil water capacity. You have more a yield map which is more linked to the decrease of the leaf area index during the maturity phase. which is much more clear than what we obtained in 2017. And you can see that from 1 year to another, for instance, here in the south of the field, there was a good yield in 2017, which was not the case in 2016. This means that from 1 year to another, maybe the story is different, and if you establish a potential map on 1 year, it's not necessarily relevant for the year after. And this is maybe one of the tricky points, but that requires maybe to use a more sophisticated tool to forecast the future. But if you know you are going to look at the landscape level here, I have images, points that correspond to 24 fields. We have a yield map for 24 fields, and we average some of the leaf area index and so on, and make a crude relationship to understand what is the variability. For instance, here, it is the same farmer using the same techniques, the same cultivar, the same cropping system, but the yield can range from 10 quintal to 70. And this is a large source of variability. And maybe the analysis of this data give us some information. The first one, if we are looking at the relationship between the yield and the maximum leaf area index, we arrive to a relationship, but which is thick. And you can see there is a kind of strip that show that you need, if you want high yield, you need a high leaf area index, but with a high leaf area index, you may have poor yield. And in fact, if we are looking at the size of the thickness of this strip, it is about 45 quintal. This means that only the story of the leaf area index during the growing phase is not enough to explain your yield. If we are looking at the installation, we have a good consistency between the leaf area index at the beginning of the cycle in comparison to the maximum leaf area index. But if you try to relate directly the leaf area index at the beginning to the yield, again, you don't have a clear relationship and the sparse situation. But if you try to work on this period, this is the beginning of the decrease of the leaf area index due to the maturity. Here you can find a very nice relationship among these 24 fields, except those points which corresponds to a late sowing. This means that we are not, by taking these two dates, we are not at the beginning of the decrease in maturity, the decrease in leaf area index due to maturity occurs after. Okay, this is just some picture to raise your interest on the need to use crop models. That there are no straightforward relationships linking leaf area index to yield production. In the case of wheat, I think it's clear with that. For rain-fed wheat, the senescent rate is likely the period during which the soil properties and what we can say potentialities has a clear impact on the yield. Maybe that is a very important period, and it's very important to have measurements on that period. We also see that the within field variability and the between field variability offer two levels of complexity. It is one thing to try to modulate at the field level due to the variations, but if we want to understand the difference between the field, it becomes much more complicated. And finally, if we want to understand the yield versus the leaf area index, which is a complex story, we need to take into account the crop installations. We need to have ideas about the soil water problems, which is basically the soil water storage capacity, but also the nitrogen, and the initial nitrogen it could be also an important factor that we have to deal with. And also the story can change from one year to another. And we try to use crop model to understand this story. Okay, now if we go to the model, what we can do with a crop model. that could be another question. Is the crop model the fantastic tool that can solve everything? You will see now. But it can offer you some basis. Quickly, just to say, what is a crop model? It's basically a function that transform the inputs as the climate, the farming operations, and some permanent properties as the soil characteristics, the initialization in soil moisture and nitrogen, the plant characteristics, and the yield, and lead to agronomic quantities as the yield or something about the quality, as well as environmental quantities as nitrogen, leaching, and so on. And in the middle, you have a system which is the soil, the microclimate, and the plant, which is simulated in the STIX crop model. We will work on the STIX crop model. And different process here that show you that we take into account the plant development in relation to the inputs. We take into account the water cycle. We take into account the carbon cycle, which is linked to the nitrogen cycle. And this is this big model. And just for specialists, some indication. I will not go in details in that. It is a generic approach that allows to represent different crops. The main processes are for the water balance using a bucket model, for the ET, the Penman-Montis approach, and so on and so on. And what is important to see here, it needs 300 parameters, which could be a nightmare. But many of them can be estimated using default parameter. And the idea is that can we still have relevant information using those parameters. Now, if we are looking for the behavior of the model, there is the first thing which is very important is that it is the variety, the plant calibration and the variety calibration. Here you have about 12 curves corresponding to the simulation of the leaf area index with the different parameterization of Durham wheat. It is only Durham wheat, but we have 12 variety already calibrated, and you can see that there is a huge variability in terms of leaf area and yield prediction. This means that if we want to take profit of the remote sensing in the crop model, we need to have an accurate representation of the leaf area index and the yield if we want to be able to use the information into the model to calibrate it. This means that the calibration of your variety is a very important step if you want to go further in the interpretation of the result. Now, if you are looking at the different factors I mentioned in the previous part of the talk, if we are looking at the effect of the soil water storage capacity on the leaf area index, we can see that in the growing stages there is little impact. This means that the soil is able to provide the resources and there is rain enough to make it possible. But if we are looking at the end, we saw the same patterns that we have seen before. There is a delay in the senescence rate, which is directly linked to the soil water storage capacity. And this analogy with what we observe with the Sentinel informations encourage us to see here, okay, we have a signal with the remote sensing that can be interpreted as properties in the crop model. But there is also a nitrogen aspect, and here this is a sensitivity to the initial nitrogen content. And we can see here that more or less at the end we have same patterns. This means that the end of the story can be confused by the fact that there is both nitrogen and soil water problems that act together. But we see also that at the beginning of the cycle, there is a different behavior. That means that the nitrogen, the lack of nitrogen at the beginning has an expression that appears more quickly than the case of the soil water content. And this gives us hope that if we have information in that period, maybe we can delineate a bit the two parameters. And now if we are looking there is two messages in these graphs. We try to make simulations using different soil water storage capacity, 279, 240, and 140 across the year. And what we can see here, it is that there is some years where there is no sensitivity. For instance, 2018 was a very wet year, and during this year, it's not necessary. We cannot have any information on the soil water content capacity. But in this year, for instance, in 2016, there is a clear impact. This means that the year, if you want to retrieve some parameters, you have also to analyze the context in which the crop is growing and try to select the good year to grasp the appropriate parameter. And this multi-year, I think, is not enough developed currently, but it will be, I think, a great margin of progress. The other point which is interesting to see is that you see that there is two lines here. One corresponds to a soil water storage capacity which was adjusted using the soil thickness, and the other one is the soil water storage capacity due to the porosity. And in fact, the model behaves similarly to the soil water storage capacity, whatever the way to obtain it. And this is a good news because this means this reduces considerably the number of parameters. And if you have an idea of the main driver of your variation in the soil water storage capacity, you can either focus on the soil thickness or on the porosity. And that is interesting. And here you have the sensitivity of the model. This is for the leaf area index. And you have in red the sensitivity to the nitrogen. In black you have the sensitivity to the initial the crop installation. And in blue the sensitivity to parameter linked to the water. And this is correspond to the different dates of measurements from January to June. And what we can see is that according to the period, the sensitivity is balanced differently. This means that at the beginning we have the only parameter that affect is the crop installation, and we can use those measurements to try to fix this problem. And then you have a period where there is a nitrogen dominating the system, and at the end you have the soil water storage capacity. And this is for a given year. And if you are looking another year, 2018, you can see that the sensitivity to soil moisture term is very low, and there is no chance to grasp any useful information about your system. And you can find the same things about the yield. In general, the yield, the sensitivity of the parameters on the yield are similar to the end of the periods and the yield. And this is an interesting feature because this means that maybe having just leaf area index, we may have enough information to invert the different parameters. This means the yield is a bit redundant with the decline of the leaf area index during the maturity phase. And this is interesting because you will not have yield in every cases, and maybe with remote sensing we can work only. And the conclusion are the following. The crop model offers a consistent representation of the leaf dynamic, especially during the critical senescence period. It's very important to have a variety parameterization. This is a prerequisite which may take time and a lot of data. The leaf area index is explained by factor linked to crop installation, nitrogen supply, and soil hydraulic property. These are the range of parameters you have to take into account. And the rate of senescence is mainly explained during the soil water, by the soil water storage capacity and the nitrogen availability. And for the soil water constraints, there is an interesting point that it is not necessarily the way you estimate the soil water storage capacity, but it is the soil water storage capacity which is the main driver of the sensitivity. And we don't discuss this a lot, but we will have an example, further example showing that initial soil water content may lead also to soil water content, soil water storage capacity, due to the fact that you may start with different level of water at the beginning, and your knowledge of this water level is not always the same. For instance, if you have a huge rain in autumn, maybe you can start at field capacity at the appropriate time, but if you don't have this huge rain, it would be much more difficult to initialize your model. And now I will finish this presentation by showing you some examples. We try to develop a method which is based on several steps, and the final goal of the method is really to provide a fertilization recommendation. And in fact, what we do is that we use historical data to establish permanent properties of the soil crop, as the soil properties of the crop variety. Then during the year we use first images to have an idea of the crop status by estimating the plant density, the initial soil nitrogen. And then once this can allow us to calibrate some critical parameter, and then we can use climate forecast, which are in general climatology, because we don't have forecast for several months, or they are not really reliable. And using this and some nitrogen scenario, we can provide a recommendation. And this is more or less the philosophy. And here, for instance, we made this work with PACO, and we have a series of images, the yield map, and then by inversion of the STIX model, we can retrieve this soil water storage map by simply, I don't go into detail, but the philosophy is that is try to match the model to reproduce this map. And if we are looking at the results here, we obtain numbers, it's okay, but we compare this number with some measurements, and we can see here that there is a reasonable agreement between the low value of soil water storage capacity and the high value, and we can discriminate them quite clearly. And maybe for intermediate situations, the situation is a bit more confused. This is the case on the first, I don't know if you remember the first picture, there is a difference between the installation, the maximum leaf area index, and the yield. Obviously, we obtain the highest soil water storage capacity in the place where there is the highest yield, because we can sustain the system. But when we make hole in that place, we didn't see any difference. And that was a bit disappointing, but the message is that we also have to deal with soil water content at the beginning. And in fact, the previous crop was the potatoes with different variety aligned in this direction. And probably some of the variety has not the same capacity to pump the water and leave the soil in different states. And maybe the 20 or 30 millimeter of water. Yes, it's okay. The 5 maybe 5 or between 5 to 30 millimeters may be sufficient to sustain the system a bit longer. Now, but this is the first step. We get information about the available the soil water storage capacity. And now, if we are going to the fertilization recommendations, the idea is like this, that we use a set of nitrogen dose. We combine a set of nitrogen dose with a set of climate, because we don't know exactly what would be the future climate, and we have to make a kind of stochastic analysis with the possible climate we have in the future. We use 30 climates based on the historical data. And this allows us to build a gross margin function, which is more or less the cost and the benefit you can make with the system. And you have a curve like this. And we also have the nitrogen loss, the environmental dimension. And the idea is really to try to fix a limit of nitrogen leave in the soil. And then we can find the adaptation. We try to find the largest gain that fulfill this limit. And this gives us the nitrogen. And we obtain a map like this. What is interesting to see is that we have a very large range of nitrogen fertilization.